Me and my family live in a house out in the middle of fields, really. The children really value it as their sanctuary. Suffolk is just a beautiful, relatively unspoiled corner of England that we all love and appreciate. We seem to be facing an onslaught of energy infrastructure. The EDF plans to build 2 nuclear reactions on the coast at Sizewell, and the scale of that is mind-boggling. It's a double reactor which would cause massive destruction to a supposedly protected coastline. The more recent infrastructure development plans concern the offshore wind farms, which are being developed as we speak. I actually support the Green Energy Initiative. I think it's very important that we find new energy sources. What I didn't fully realise until recently was the impact that has onshore. I was, I suppose, naive to think that this would be a relatively simple operation. I was absolutely stunned to realise the scale of the infrastructure that is required. And seems to be no joined up thinking as to how you efficiently get the energy that you produce offshore connected onshore. The key entity is National Grid. National Grid have effectively abdicated responsibility for this fiasco. Scottish Power, if you like, are doing National Grid's dirty work for them. And National Grid have not engaged with the local community at all. We have had to fight through Freedom of Information Acts to get any response from them. And when we got a response, 80% of the document was redacted. And I can't understand why they're not willing to explain their decisions to us and come to a more sensible decision. George Freeman, the MP in Norfolk, has discussed, and I believe he raised it in Parliament, the option of an offshore ring main. My guess is that that might be a little bit more expensive, but I actually don't know the reason why that isn't being pursued. It may even be being pursued, but again, we're not really given much information, which is part of the frustration and anger that's building up locally. I think it will very possibly destroy Friston. This is an ancient village with a medieval church in an area of beautiful open countryside. And the idea that a structure the size of Wembley Stadium will be plonked in the middle of fields beside it is, to my mind, mind-boggling. But it's not just the impact on Friston, it's the impact on a wider area. Scottish Power's own estimate is that 15,000 trees will be knocked down. Suffolk coastal area relies heavily on tourism for its income. Tourists aren't going to want to travel when they're stuck behind 20 trucks moving at a glacial pace through narrow country roads. The entire nature of the area will be changed beyond recognition. And it makes me very angry that nobody seems to be taking this into account and no one is looking at the cumulative impact of all the various infrastructure projects that are being forced on a really quite a small area of land, a large part of which is supposedly protected. You have fields being torn up, trenches that are 20 metres deep and 50 metres wide, crashing through an area of 9 or 10 kilometres. Workers will be shipped in for the duration of the construction period, but they won't be local people. And once the thing is up and running, it doesn't require any workforce at all. So there is no social benefit whatsoever to this area in the construction of these substations. The idea that you can bring in all these workers and they'll simply come to work and go back home again and not have any impact on the local services is ridiculous. There's just no facilities for the numbers of people we're talking about locally. The biggest frustration for all of us is the unwillingness of the people who make these decisions to sit down and have honest conversations and actually explain to us how this disastrous decision was made. We feel that we are being patronised, that they think we're not very intelligent people living in a small rural village in Suffolk, and that we'll easily roll over and let this happen. Their consultations, to my mind, are box-ticking exercises. They have never once replied to the comments that I myself have made, or that the local protest groups have made. National Grid needs to be challenged. A trench that was 30 kilometres long, 20 metres deep and 50 metres wide has already been built 20 miles down the coast. I asked a Scottish Power representative here in Friston why they couldn't reopen that trench and lay the cables in there, and he said there's now a tomato farm being constructed on top of the trench. So I said, are you seriously telling me that you're going to build a substation the size of Wembley Stadium? You're going to dig another trench 15 kilometres through Suffolk countryside because you don't want to disrupt a tomato farm. This is the sort of nonsense that drives us mad and is piecemeal destroying this entire side of the coast of England. The lack of joined up thinking and the lack of sensible conversation and clear decision making at a government level and at National Grid is a disgrace. I cannot see a single positive in this plan at all, either socially, economically, or with the view of what the impact will be for future generations. Our countryside is under threat and it cannot recover from this onslaught.